Aristotle's natural philosophy. Understanding change. Aristotle's natural philosophy aims for theoretical knowledge about things that are subject to change. Whereas all generated things, including artifacts and products of chance, have a source that generates them, natural change is caused by a thing's inner principle and cause, which may accordingly be called the thing's nature, Phys.192b820. To grasp the nature of a thing is to be able to explain why it was generated essentially. The nature of a thing does not merely contribute to a change, but is the primary determinant of the change as such. Waterlow, 1982, p.28. Though some hold that Aristotle's principles are epistemic, explanatory concepts, principles are best understood ontologically as unique, continuous natures that govern the generation and self-preservation of natural beings. To understand a thing's nature is primarily to grasp how a being displays itself by its nature. Such a grasp counts as a correct explanation only insofar as it constitutes a form of understanding of beings in themselves as they give themselves. Winslow, 2007-37. Aristotle's description of principles as the start and end of change, Phys.235b6, distinguishes between two kinds of natural change. Substantial change occurs when a substance is generated, Phys.225a15. For example, when the seed of a plant gives rise to another plant of the same kind. Non-substantial change occurs when a substance's accidental qualities are affected, for example, the change of color in a ripening pomegranate. Aristotelians describe this as the activity of contraries of blackness and whiteness in the plant's material, in which the fruit of the pomegranate, as its juices become colored by ripening, itself becomes shaded, changing to a purple color. De coloribus, 796-2026. Ripening occurs when heat burns up the air in the part of the plant near the ground, causing convection that alters the originally light color of the fruit to its dark contrary. De Planty, 820b 1923. Both kinds of change are caused by the plant's containing in itself a principle of change. In substantial change, a new primary substance is generated. In non-substantial change, some property of pre-existing substance changes to a contrary state. A process of change is completely described when its four causes are given. This can be illustrated with Aristotle's favorite example of the production of a bronze sculpture. The one material cause of the change is given when the underlying matter of the thing has been described, such as the bronze matter of which a statue is composed. The two formal cause is given when one says what kind of thing the thing is, for example, sphere for a bronze sphere or Callias for a bronze statue of Callias. The three efficient cause is given when one says what brought the change about, for example, when one names the sculptor. The four final cause is given when one says the purpose of the change, for example, when one says why the sculptor chose to make the bronze sphere. Phys.194b16, 195a2. In natural change, the principle of change is internal, so the formal, efficient, and final causes typically coincide. Moreover, in such cases, the metaphysical and epistemological sides of causal explanation are normally unified. A formal cause counts both as a thing's essence, what it is to be that thing, and as its rational account or reason for being. Bianchi, 2014-35. Thus, when speaking of natural changes rather than the making of an artifact, Aristotle will usually offer hylomorphic descriptions of the natural being as a compound of matter and form. Because Aristotle holds that a thing's underlying nature is analogous to the bronze in a statue, Phys.191a712, some have argued that the underlying thing refers to prime matter, that is, to an absolutely indeterminate matter that has no form. But Cook, 1989, has shown that the underlying thing normally means matter that already has some form. Indeed, Aristotle claims that the matter of perceptible things has no separate existence, but is always already informed by a contrary. The matter that traditional natural philosophy calls the elements, fire, water, air, and earth, already has the form of the basic contraries, hot and cold and moist and dry, so that, for example, fire is matter with a hot and dry form. Thus, even in the most basic cases, matter is always actually informed, even though the form is potentially subject to change. For example, throwing water on a fire cools and moistens it, and bringing about a new quality in the underlying material. Thus, Aristotle sometimes describes natural powers as being latent or active in the material. Aristotle's general works in natural philosophy offer analyses of concepts necessarily assumed in accounts of natural processes, including time, change, and place. In general, Aristotle will describe changes that occur in time as arising from a potential, which is actualized when the change is complete. However, what is actual is logically prior to what is potential, since a potentiality aims at its own actualization and thus must be defined in terms of what is actual. Indeed, generically, the actual is also temporally prior to potentiality, since there must invariably be a pre-existing actuality that brings the potentiality to its own actualization. Met.1049b419. Perhaps because of the priority of the actual to the potential, whenever Aristotle speaks of natural change, he is concerned with a field of naturalistic inquiry that is continuous rather than atomistic and purposeful or teleological rather than mechanical. In his more specific naturalistic works, Aristotle lays out a program of specialized studies about the heavens and earth, living things, and the psyche.